I'm Sheila Guillotin. Welcome to the Simsbury Woman. Today our show is a continuation of our Therapy Dog segment. Our returning guests are Karyn Cordner and Sally King and their therapy dogs, Raven and James. But we're also delighted to welcome Laurie Kraus, Director of Therapeutic Recreation at Seabury, a life plan community in Bloomfield, Connecticut. Laurie first invited Karyn and Sally and their dogs to Seabury to interact with one specific group of residents. However, as she will tell you, the value of the dogs in many other areas became quickly apparent. In our previous show, we focused mostly on the role that therapy dogs play in helping children of all ages cope with situations that cause anxiety. Karyn and Sally shared many of their experiences when Raven and James were part of the Read to Dog programs in local schools and libraries. Not only did they show us how reading to the dog, a non-judgmental listener, helped children improve their confidence, which led to improvement in vocabulary and comprehension. But they also told us about the many times that the dogs actually became the vehicles which allowed the child to air more serious issues, such as bullying or even medical concerns. A child can tell a dog things that they simply are too afraid or too embarrassed to tell an adult, even a parent or teacher. But children are not the only ones for whom therapy dogs provide much needed support. The dogs are also important in environments such as hospitals, especially veterans hospitals, which we addressed before, retirement homes, assisted living facilities, nursing homes, and hospices. Recently, the medical profession has finally recognized that therapy dogs not only provide benefits for mental health, but interactions with these dogs also provide physical benefits that can be measured. Some of these benefits include blood pressure, decreasing heart rate, both of which can be accurately measured. Laurie's going to talk about petting a dog will actually release hormones which are associated with happiness and contentment. Recent news reports on major channels even spoke of ICU units at Washington MedStar Hospital and UAB Hospital in Birmingham, Alabama. These hospitals showed that patients who petted dogs reported less pain and required less pain medication. Furthermore, after several years of visits from therapy dogs, none of the hospitals who allowed the dogs into their ICUs reported any adverse reaction from patients, despite bringing dogs into what you would think would be a sterile environment. I'd like to start by welcoming Laurie and asking her to explain her position at Seabury and tell us how they decided to invite Karyn and Sally and their dogs into their campus. Welcome, Laurie.
Thank you, Sheila. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. Yes, my position at Seabury is I'm the Director of Therapeutic Recreation in the skilled nursing area. And I have the privilege actually of setting up activities and programs for our residents to enjoy and hopefully increase their quality of life, which is truly important. And I can't say enough for the dogs, and that's, I thank you and the ladies. I thank Karyn and Sally for having me, and yourself for having me be here to tell you a little bit about the difference that they make in our community.
Sally, I think you mentioned that you actually had a fair amount to do with going into Seabury. Why don't you tell us how that came about?
Sure. My parents actually lived at Seabury. They were one of the first residents there starting in 1994, and they were there 14 years till 2008. And they went through all levels of care at Seabury, and they had an excellent experience, and we had an excellent experience with Seabury. After James was certified as a therapy dog with Bright Spot, I was looking at the various places that they visited and their dogs visited in Connecticut, and I saw to my delight that Seabury was one of them. So right after James was certified and we were ready to go, I contacted Seabury, and in fact many of the people that I knew from when my parents were there were still there. And the head of recreation at that point of the programs was a woman that had been there when my parents were there. So I contacted her, and she was delighted to hear from me and said, yes, please come in. So I started going to Seabury a year ago just about a year ago now, in July. And I spent several weeks going around with Laurie's assistant, Kate, to the various rooms and meeting people, and James got all settled in there, and we were there, let's see, into the fall, and then when Karyn had her dog certified, and I mentioned to Karyn that it might be a good place for her to go too. So anyway, that's how we started. So.
Okay. Now, what kind of, you said you brought them in initially to one department. What kind of clients were you intending to have them serve? And we'll talk about how it progressed as they got there.
Well, the area that I actually serve is the skilled nursing area. And we do have actually rehab residents that do come in that are part of our community, and as well as the skilled nursing, which is total care. Some are total care, some have extended Alzheimer's, but my residents need assistance of some sort by aides. And when Sally and James came in, they, like Sally was saying, they had come in prior to me. So my predecessor had brought them in. And then Karyn came on board after I was there. And I can't tell you how much excitement and the difference they make, not only in the residents' lives, but the staff as well. It takes them a half hour just to get up to my area. Right. It's incredible. It's incredible.
So how long has Seabury been welcoming? You said they were on the list. How long have they been welcoming therapy dogs?
I don't know. There was someone that was visiting before I came, but they were not doing it when I contacted Muriel. So I don't really know. I don't know who it was, and I don't know how often they came, but there was one name there. So.
We are a pet-friendly community, so a lot of the independent residents have their own pets. However, now they've extended their services, and I'm kind of a little envious now because I have to share, Karyn and Sally and their pets, and with our assisted living and our memory support, which is a wonderful service that they give, and I'll tell you stories when you.
Tell us stories right now.
There's actually one story that, and it's dear to my heart because all my residents are, and that's why I do what I do. But the dogs actually add so much, and just to watch them interact with the residents. There was a woman who, unfortunately, she was on hospice, and Sally and James were walking around visiting our residents, and this just happened just a few weeks ago. And the family was around the bedside, and they had asked you, right, to come in?
I was visiting, as Laurie said, I think part of our service at Seabury is also visiting the staff. So we tend to, in the various places that we go and visit various staff. So I was down the hall and I was talking with someone, and I had James with me, and I noticed there were family members in this particular room, and they approached me and said, "Do you think you could bring the dog in to meet my mother who's dying?" And we would really appreciate it. So I brought James in, and she was lying in the bed, and family was around, and so I was able to pat the bed, and James jumped right up, not his whole, just his front paws right next to her, and she patted him and looked at him, and he was pretty special.
Aww.
And the family did come back to me afterwards and said what a moment it was, because their mother smiled, and things like that. Humans can't give the same type of support, I don't think, as our pets. And I think it's so therapeutic, and I appreciate both of you so much. And that's one story, but there are many, especially with Raven and Karyn. There is a gentleman that actually is not responsive to much stimuli or touch. However, when Raven comes in, she will go up to the wheelchair and he smiles and laughs. And this gentleman won't do that for anybody. So certainly, that the older population has, he probably had a pet, and a lot of them have. And, it's heartwarming just to watch, to see them walk around. It's it's therapeutic for me. I want to walk around. I don't want to do my job. I want to walk around because it does. Like they were saying prior to this session, it lowers anxiety. It's lowering my anxiety just having them here. I'm not used to being on camera. I'm used to being in front of my residents. That's what I do. But their service to us is invaluable. I mean, they're taking their free time. And just that service alone is truly remarkable, and you can't put a monetary value on it. I set up a lot of different things and events and activities, but none as valuable as what they bring.
Well, actually, during the break, one of the people who was here asked, is this a service that's a volunteer service, or do you get paid for it?
No, it's volunteer. Oh, we get paid, but we get paid in joy. It's a volunteer job.
It is volunteer.
But, I was happy to start coming to Seabury because last year my dad passed away in Florida in a similar facility, and I was a little nervous about it. But when I come, here's how I get paid. I remember him, and I'm so glad to help. So, there's just all this kind of good vibe stuff going on for all of us. And one of my amazing experiences was at a different facility from Seabury. It was an adult daycare center, but there was a lady there who wasn't doing very well. And she got to meet and like Raven, and we would come each week, and she'd brighten up. And one time when we left, she started to cry, and her aide sort of whispered to me, I think she's really, likes Raven, and she's looking forward to next time, and sorry to see you go today. Well, unfortunately, within a couple of weeks after that, she passed away, but the facility got a call from her family who wanted a picture of Raven at the funeral. She had told them how much Raven had meant to her, and that was something that we were able to do. So you just don't know. And the gentleman you were talking about, yeah, you're right. Maybe he's remembering running in the fields with his own dog.
Absolutely. Their memories.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, and two other gentlemen. I know that, I can't remember, I think it was Jamie that jumped up on one of the residents' chairs because he owned a dog, and he just jumped up in love. You could see the expression. It's just, it's nothing. I can't put it into words because you have to be there, and what you do is just, it brings so much joy to our residents. And like I said, I don't want to share, but I have to. And truly, I do. I want to share you, but yeah.
Well, it brings joy to the dogs, and I'll give you a specific example. When Sally and I come in, there are some residents that regularly want to and do interact with the dogs. And there's others who wave and smile, and we just kind of move around. But the ones that the dogs have gotten to know, they lead us to their rooms, and they stop at the door. And if we're thinking we're going some other direction, that's not happening. They want to go see the people. Know. It's incredible what they know as well.
They sense it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when they first came on board, I think Katie took you around, right?
She did.
To
and I really appreciated the care that you take at Seabury in your community to make us understand and be welcome guests. And so it works for everybody, including the dogs.
It's easy.
Well, there was a receptionist. Seabury's been doing a lot of construction, so the entrance has been moving around, and so we used to come in a particular entrance where there was the little window, and there's the receptionist right there and the sign-in book, and so there was a ledge right there, and so James, she started stocking cookies.
Doggy cookies.
So he learned that when he came in, if he jumped right up on that little ledge, that Mary was going to give him a cookie. So then the construction came along, and that entrance went away, and he walks in and he goes, "Where's Mary?"
He stops by the former window, which is now a wall.
Right, it's gone. So I had to go out to it's the main entrance now, the main lobby, and there's Mary, and she has the little desk there. So he comes right, and he just jumps right up there and says, "All right, where's the cookie?"
Where's the cookie?
And so she pretty soon learned to do that, and so neither one of us can get in there without getting cookies, and then so that's what leads us to be late to her, because then we interact with the full-time residents that are in all different levels of of independence or whatever. So we all always end up having to stop, and then we get up to the
I'm
waiting
waiting.
area there. I know,
It's
and then they're
10:30,
there, and I know.
10:45.
And then the staff wants to see them, and we
Well,
have.
that leads actually to my next question. I mean, you guys must be incredibly busy, but how often do you go to like Seabury, and how long do you stay? Because the dogs obviously must have a time limit on working.
They're good for about an hour, really.
Okay.
And then beyond that, they get a little antsy. They just get it's mentally, challenging for them, and you don't really see it until you get. Right now he's getting
Of course,
fascinated with
she's
something.
beautiful
He's doing
now.
fine. But they get it's enough. So what we've tried to do, because Karyn comes from West Simsbury and I'm from Granby, so we don't want to be making a million trips out there. Is we come on Thursdays. And we alternate. We always come to Laurie's 2 sections.
Okay.
And
So you go at different times, so one goes one way, or
we've been coming together because we find
okay.
that works pretty well, and then we come singly too. So
Okay.
in the winter we were doing that. So we're also doing in assisted living. We have like there's a kind of a community room at the end of one of the wings. So they'll all come out there, and then we visit with the dog. And that's a little quicker than when we go to all the single rooms. So we do that there, and then we also go over to the memory unit.
Okay. Laurie, you said you've added department after department. How did this progress? Is this just a natural progression because the dogs were friendly and people saw them?
Yes.
Or was it a professional decision that this is going to help this group of people?
No. They changed the entrance.
That's right.
And everybody got to see them and said, "What do you do? Who are these dogs?"
I'm very flattered because one of the staff members told me that you guys had a gathering for information purposes or to share each other's experiences as employees. And part of what you did was play a trivia game. And so the employees were asked a lot of fun questions about where's this wing or who's the president of this or whatever it might have been. But they also had a question was, what are the names of the therapy dogs?
We just had a spirit week. The whole entire community. Yes,
so that was really fun
engaged.
for us to think that you, as a group, included our dogs in your spirit.
Yes, that's 400 plus people.
Wow.
And they all knew. Apparently, they could answer the question.
Well, that would be an easy one, I can imagine.
Ray, come sit down.
So you wanted to tell us some more stories about the reactions that some of your residents, and I would think, you've got different levels of people who are in different stages of...
Absolutely.
Give us just some idea of how the therapy dog actually helps different levels of people in different stages of their life.
I would actually say that as the therapist, they can probably answer the questions better than I because they take them around and see their reactions. But certainly I can add with the residents when I am available to watch and see them interact. It's amazing that because, like I said, the older adults generally had dogs, when they were growing up and as children. And, seeing the dogs come up to wield the wheelchairs, people, and a lot of our residents are in wheelchairs, and that's how they get around. And their reactions they will stop, and you will just see their face light up. And their hands reach out, and it's like they go back. Right? They go back. Yes, they go back, and it's like they're reliving. Maybe a childhood memory, like you had said. And it's amazing the reactions that you see on their faces. And certainly, I know that Sally and Karyn can probably add to that.
Well, there's one gentleman there that, we're fond of everybody, but one gentleman is a man maybe in his 40s, and he sustained a stroke of some sort, which is quite debilitating. And he has, I think, better days than other days, but I have definitely seen him perk up, move his hands better, and his verbal skills improve when the dogs come in. And I think there's a zap or something that's going on that it gives him that energy or that drive to do a little bit better for a few minutes. And then Steve is another gentleman who's interesting, and you like him a lot. Tell him about Steve.
Parkinson's, he's another one trapped in a body that's failing him. And he had a dog. He has a picture of a lab in his room, and his family said, I arrived one day, and somebody gave me the message. They said, please go see Steve, even if the door's closed. He wants to see the dog. So we always try and do definitely those two. And there are several people that will say that. There's another woman that's there through, again, a health issue, not a dementia issue or a physical. I mean, yeah, it is a physical issue, but it's just something. She needs the care. There are a couple of them like that, and they really like to see the dog, so we always go see them. And the same thing, they'll say, because you're always a little hesitant sometimes as you're going around if the door's closed, but they say, I don't care if the door is closed, knock, come on in, we need to see the dog.
Or the dogs knock on the door.
Oh, yeah, I know.
They don't want to see the humans.
No, they want
to see the dogs, yeah.
I'm curious now. Raven and James are quite different. Yeah. Do they have personalities that somehow attract some people more than others? I mean, do some people like one more than the other? I mean, they are quite different, even though they both have the same
training. Well, actually, there is that one
training.
gentleman that responds to Raven.
Yeah.
He does the same thing with James.
Oh.
He does.
Oh,
He does
I knew that.
And he smiles. He smiles. Yeah, he smiles. Yeah, he's always happy, very happy to see the dog.
I think their certification training makes them very consistent when they're meeting new people. Okay. Now, do they have personalities when they're with us that are incredibly different? Yes. But I also think that sometimes when people see a shepherd, they expect maybe a police dog or something a little bit different. So
people are afraid of that dog more than they would be of James.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
reason. And so Raven just introduces herself. She'll do a trick or whatever. She's just fabulous with tricks. And so she can pretty much win everybody over. But part of our training was to be incredibly sensitive to that kind of thing. There will be people that we're visiting where you say, hi, would you like to say hello to Raven and James today? And they'll say no. And that's perfectly fine.
I hate dogs. I mean, sometimes we get that.
I was going to ask you. Yeah, I mean, there are people.
Oh, sure,
I can't quite believe it, but there are people who hate dogs.
I know. It's amazing.
Yeah,
what
it is.
A concept.
I don't get that.
Yeah,
they're not at Seabury.
Oh, good.
The other thing we get with James is there's two comments that are always made. First of all, he is a breed champion, so he's put together well, but he is a beautiful dog. He's colored beautifully. His, everything is
very soft.
gorgeous.
He has gold eyes. If you can get that on the
and that's what they'll say. They'll look, oh, what a beautiful dog, and then look at his eyes. So a lot of people just like to kind of look at him sometimes too, because I know.
Yes, you are so pretty.
But I have one story where Raven brought out the humor in a gentleman. This wasn't at Seabury. It was in an adult daycare center where we go. And the first time I came, I was greeted by 30 people sitting in a circle. And I thought I would be just visiting people table to table. So I told them a lot about Raven, and I thought, what am I going to do? So I did a lot of her tricks. And she's very smart. And when she was being trained to be a guide dog, they weren't teaching her tricks, but I've taught her a lot. And after she did sit up, stay, leave it, circle, dance, prayers, all this stuff, one of the gentlemen jumped up and he decided he was going to be her trainer. So every time I come, Raven runs to him and he starts asking her to do her tricks. She's so bonded to me that usually she does them best for me. So what I do is stand behind Raven and he's focused on her and he'll say, Raven, shake it. Or Raven, dance. And so she does it, but he cracks up and everybody else cracks up. And it's fun for her. So, whatever the dogs need to do, they seem to be able to do it.
That's great. Yeah. Laurie, I have a question for you. Now, have you gotten any pushback from the medical community? Because, as I said, I was quite surprised to see these stories about dogs being brought into something like an ICU where you would think, we don't want dogs. How is the medical profession in terms of pushing back or beginning to accept therapy dogs
I think it's more acceptable. It's certainly more acceptable. I mean, as we know, it lowers blood pressure, 10%, anxiety. There are so many benefits that, speaking from, the medical side, it is just, it's invaluable. I mean, I keep saying that word, but it's so true because, we are trying to, as a community, reduce the amount of drugs that we give,
Sure.
and the best way to do that is by aromatherapy, by pet therapy, things that make a difference, touching, feeling, and certainly the pet therapy is huge in the medical field, and I think it's becoming more acceptable than it was in the past.
Yeah, you see more and more stories now.
Absolutely.
Where the medical profession, as in the doctors, are actually encouraging, and perhaps the opioid, crisis we have now, they've learned that petting a dog is actually going to reduce the desire for stronger medications. So I think you're right. There probably is more of an acceptance, which is a good thing.
I mean, who doesn't want unconditional love,
Yeah.
I mean, truly. Yeah, they can leave for 10 minutes and you come back and their tail's wagging, they give you a kiss. I mean, where can you get that?
No.
And medically speaking, I don't know the statistics, but certainly if we were to look it up and do the research, I'm sure we could get significant amounts of, positive feedback from pets alone.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we've reached the end of our time for this session. I want to thank all of our guests, Karyn, Raven, Sally, James, and Laurie. For anyone interested in participating in a pet therapy program, either as a handler who wants to train a dog and have them certified, or someone who wants to invite a therapy dog into their particular situation, you can get much more information by going online and searching therapy dogs. Karyn and Sally and their dogs were trained and certified by Bright Spot Therapy Dogs of Massachusetts, which they discussed earlier. But there are numerous organizations that also offer training and certification, and it's not hard to understand the comfort and support that these amazing dogs offer. There's so many more stories of the good things that they do. I hope our viewers will be at least a little bit inspired by the stories that they've heard today, and the good work that's being done by all of these dogs and their trainers. I want to thank all of you for coming, especially our furry friends who were quite warm, and I wish everyone a happy and a healthy day. Thank you.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.